Hello everyone, and welcome back to our story time adventure. Today, we're joining our favorite little monkey, Curious George, for a deliciously fun day. It's Pancake Day, and you know what that means. Maple syrup, fluffy pancakes, and a whole lot of monkey madness. Let's jump right in and see what sticky situations George gets himself into this time. The sun was just starting to peek through the window, painting the kitchen in warm, golden stripes. The man with the yellow hat was humming a cheerful tune. George, he called out, "Guess what special day it is today?" George, who was busy trying to balance a banana on his nose, tilted his head. The banana wobbled and fell with a soft plop. The man with the yellow hat chuckled. "It's Pancake Day, the one day a year we make my super special, super fluffy, super delicious pancakes." George's eyes lit up. Pancakes. He loved pancakes. He remembered them from last year. Warm, soft circles of joy, covered in sweet, sticky syrup. He clapped his hands and did a little happy dance on the kitchen floor. The man with the yellow hat placed a big yellow bowl on the counter. "All right, my little helper, are you ready to assist the chef?" George nodded eagerly, jumping onto a stool to get a better view. First came the flour. The man with the yellow hat scooped a big cupful into the bowl, creating a soft white mountain. "We need 2 cups of this, George." George watched, mesmerized, as the second cup joined the first. Then came the eggs. The man with the yellow hat expertly cracked 2 eggs on the side of the bowl. Tap, tap, crack. George ed and awed. He tried to mimic the motion with his hands, tapping the countertop. Next, the milk. A smooth white river poured into the bowl, making little pools in the flour. "Now for the secret ingredient," the man whispered, winking at George. He pulled out a small bottle of vanilla. A few drops went in, and the kitchen instantly smelled like a bakery. George took a deep whiff, his little nose twitching with delight. "Okay, George, time to mix." But gently now, he handed George a whisk. George gripped it with both hands and plunged it into the bowl, but his idea of gently was a bit more enthusiastic. Flour poofed up in a cloud, dusting his face and making him look like a little ghost monkey. The man with the yellow hat laughed, wiping a smudge of flour from George's nose. "Whoa there, little guy. Let's try it together." They held the whisk and stirred, watching the lumpy mixture transform into a smooth, creamy batter. With the batter ready, it was time for the main event. The man with the yellow hat heated a pan on the stove and poured a perfect circle of batter onto it. Small tiny bubbles started to appear on the surface. George watched, fascinated, his eyes wide. After a moment, the man slid a spatula under the pancake and, with a flick of his wrist, flipped it high into the air. It turned a perfect somersault and landed back in the pan. George gasped and applauded with all his might. He wanted to try. The man poured another pancake. "Okay, George, your turn to flip this one. Just be careful." George grabbed the spatula, his heart thumping with excitement. He slid it under the pancake, took a deep breath, and flip. The pancake flew up, 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 and landed right on his head. It sat there like a floppy, warm hat. George stood perfectly still, surprised. The man with the yellow hat couldn't help but burst out laughing. He gently lifted the pancake off George's head. "Well, that was a unique way to wear a pancake, George. Let's try again." The next flip was a success, landing right back in the pan. Soon they had a tall, steaming stack of perfect, golden brown pancakes. "Now for the best part," said the man, pulling a large bottle from the cupboard. It was shaped like a log cabin. Maple syrup. George's eyes practically popped out of his head. He loved maple syrup more than anything. The man unscrewed the cap, and a wonderfully sweet, woody aroma filled the air. He began to pour a slow, golden stream over the pancake stack. George watched the syrup trickle down the sides, his mouth watering, but the man stopped after just a little bit. "There we go," he said, putting the cap back on. All done, but George didn't think it was all done. That was hardly any syrup at all. A pancake stack that tall needed a river of syrup, an ocean of syrup. While the man went to get the plates, George saw his chance. His curious eyes were fixed on the log cabin bottle on the high shelf. He needed more syrup. He scurried off the stool and looked around the kitchen. How could he reach it? His eyes landed on a tower of cookbooks. Perfect. He pushed a chair over to the counter, climbed up, and started stacking the books. 1, 2, 3. The tower grew taller and taller, but it was wobbly. He carefully climbed to the top, stretching his little arm out, just a little further. He got his fingers around the bottle. Success. But as he pulled the bottle towards him, his foot slipped. The tower of books tumbled, and George went with it. The syrup bottle flew from his grasp, soaring through the air in a perfect arc, and splat! It landed right in the middle of the pancake stack, knocking the whole thing over. Pancakes slid across the table, and the uncapped bottle sent a huge wave of maple syrup gushing everywhere. It flowed off the table and onto the floor, creating a giant, sticky, golden puddle. Oh no! The man with the yellow hat came back into the kitchen, holding 2 plates. He stopped dead in his tracks. "George," he exclaimed, looking at the syrupy chaos. Pancakes were stuck to the floor, the chairs, and even the wall. And in the middle of it all sat a very sticky, very guilty-looking little monkey. George was covered head to toe in maple syrup. He looked less like a monkey and more like a giant, furry piece of candy. He slowly lifted a sticky hand and gave a tiny, sheepish wave. The man sighed, but then a smile crept onto his face. It was impossible to stay mad at George for long. "Oh, George, I think you have a little something everywhere." George looked down at his sticky tummy and tried to wipe it off, which only made his hands stickier. The man knelt down. "Well, it looks like we have a big cleanup job ahead of us. We can't have a maple monkey running around the house, can we?" George shook his head, which was also very sticky. Cleaning up was an adventure in itself. The mop got stuck to the floor. The sponge got stuck to the mop. George tried to help by wiping the wall with a cloth, but then the cloth got stuck to the wall. It was a sticky, tricky mess. The man finally had a clever idea. He filled a bucket with warm, soapy water. Slowly but surely, the soap and water worked their magic, dissolving the sticky syrup until the kitchen floor was sparkling clean again. The last step was giving George a bath, which turned the water a little bit brown but left George feeling fluffy and clean. After all that work, they were both exhausted and very hungry. The man looked at the few pancakes that had been saved from the syrup flood. "Well, George," he said, "I guess we know what happens when you have a case of maple monkey madness." He put one of the rescued pancakes on a plate for George. "I think you've earned this." "But maybe," he said, picking up the now mostly empty syrup bottle, "we should let *me* handle the syrup from now on." George nodded enthusiastically, a big smile on his face. He happily ate his single pancake, which was, thankfully, already perfectly syrupy. It was the best pancake he had ever tasted, and so Pancake Day ended not with a tall stack, but with a big cleanup, a funny story, and one very happy and no longer sticky little monkey. What a whirlwind of a pancake day for George. He sure learned that a little bit of syrup goes a long way. Thank you so much for joining us for this sticky, sweet story. We hope you had as much fun as we did. If you enjoyed our adventure with Curious George, don't forget to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss another story. We have so many more fun tales to share with you. Until next time, stay curious and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.